All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. This week we have an awesome guest joining us. We got a guy here who's another guy representing the Midwest. I feel like I'm always reaching out to Ohio or Illinois to grab my guests, but there's just good people in the Midwest. So we got another one on with us today. We got a guy who, he's just killing life right now. He's killing his own personal world. He's killing professional world. He's taking school leadership education by storm. He is a leader. He's a teacher. He's a writer and an author now. He's a podcaster. He's a runner. He's a skateboarder. He's a dad. He's doing it all, man. He's just truly killing life. Today, I've got a punk rock principal with us on the podcast. I've got Mike Earnshaw with us. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. Excited.
Absolutely.
Super excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. You are, like I said, you're killing life. And I track you, and I know all the stuff that's going on with you. There might be a couple people out there, though, that maybe haven't connected with you yet for some crazy reason.
Right.
Do you mind just introducing yourself to those people?
Yeah, no, definitely. And after you kind of laid out everything I've been doing, it didn't dawn on me like that is a lot of stuff, man. But so I'm Mike Earnshaw. I am, like Dave said, from Illinois, kind of south suburbs of Chicago, like right on the border, Illinois and Indiana. I was a ELA middle school teacher for about 15 years. And after I got married, I decided it was time to go back for my master's. And my current administration kind of talked me into, oh, you got to go for administration. It's going to open more doors for you. I had no desire at all to ever leave the classroom and go into administration. But once I started taking the courses, I realized like, this is where I want to go. This is where I can make more of a difference. You know, a lot of people say that. So I was an assistant principal for about 2 years, and I'm currently in my 6th year as an elementary school principal in Lansing, Illinois. So, you know, like you said, I'm a runner. I've been a runner my whole life. I've been a skateboarder my whole life. Been into punk rock music my whole life. I got a podcast that's been going for almost a half a year now with my amazing co-host, Josh Buckley. Could not do it without him. I've been blogging. I just recently got a book agreement with EduMatch. So there's speaking at conferences, just a lot of things. Like being a principal and a dad wasn't enough. You know, I said, let's put some more stuff on my plate and do something there.
And you're killing it at everything that you do, too. That's what's so impressive. It's not like you're just dabbling. You're going all in on all the things. It's crazy.
You know, and that's, yeah, I can't do something and just kind of, like you said, dabble it and then take my foot out. Like if I'm going to do something, I want to do it like through to the end with fidelity. I want it to be, you know, I want to show my passion through everything I do. And all of these projects I love doing. It's not like I love one more than the other. I love to write. I love talking. So like speaking, podcasting, like all those things, like I want to do them with fidelity. And it gets difficult sometimes because, you know, like juggling the family life, and it's, you know, my wife, it's kind of funny. She's like, you're always on your phone lately. And I'm like, but I'm working. Like these are things it's leading to this. And she understands it, but you know, my son's 11, my daughter's 8. So you know how it is with kids and, you know, softball and basketball and dance and running here and there. It's a lot to juggle, but you know, that's one of the things I kind of talk about when I speak. You've got to find that balance in your time, you know. So a lot of days I'm up at 4 a.m. before everyone else in the world's up, so I can either, you know, get a run in, a workout in, or get some writing done or some reading, just something for myself. Because I've found as my kids have gotten older, if I'm not up that early, it's not going to happen, because now they're going to bed later, and by that time I'm exhausted. So just trying to find that balance to get it all done, you know. And I'm not saying people have to do as much as I'm doing. I mean, there's another project that we didn't even mention. It's just I'm working on with 8 other people, Education Never Dies. And we just dropped our first chat last Wednesday. And then we've got this whole website built around it, of a place for educators, and we'll get into my story too. And that's why this is so passionate to my heart, because it kind of, I know there's other educators out there who felt like I did at one point, just kind of lost in, is this where we even want to be? Should I leave the profession? So that's another project we're working on. Yeah, I guess we could talk all about all that stuff today.
Yeah. We'll definitely go there. And one of the things I just want to encourage you with, and for anybody listening, we talk about balance all the time, and it gets exhausting, especially when you're doing all the things. I had a guest on a few months ago, and she is one of the most amazing people ever. Cass Nelson, lives down in Oklahoma.
Yes.
She's a principal, but in her little district, this principal, she does all the things, like pulling out the snow shovel and shoveling the sidewalks and mowing lawns when necessary, doing the scoreboard at the basketball games. Plus, she's a mom and a wife, and her husband is the superintendent of the school district. She's got a running streak that's just crazy right now.
Yeah.
And we were talking about balance and how in the world does she do it all? And she said, I don't live a life of balance. I live a life of priority. It's that simple. I pick and choose what's important,
Right.
and that's what I do. And I think that's what you just kind of articulated too. You've got some things that are important to you, but you're not willing to sacrifice kids and family. That is the priority. So if you want to do your things, you're finding the time to do it. I think too often we start to sacrifice who we are, sacrifice our soul, sacrifice the things that are important, all in a quest to do the next best thing. And you're doing an excellent job of staying true to who you are and what your priorities are. I mean, you were a skateboarding principal before being a skateboarding principal was cool. Cause that's, that's you, man. Skateboarding is something I haven't done since I was 12 years old. Can we just go there? Why in the world are you still a skateboarder?
It's funny. Since I was probably 5 years old when I got my first skateboard, and it wasn't something like somebody gave to me. Like, I had seen older kids and I was like, I want that. And I was drawn to it. And, Gleaming the Cube with Christian Slater, was out in the 80s, and that movie changed my whole life. Like, oh my God, Christian Slater, you're a kid, you think he's the skateboarder. He didn't know what he was doing, but, so I just got into it. And for me, I never was good at sports. I was not like an athlete, I'm a runner. I was always good at running. When I was in school, I wanted to be the sprinters all kids did on the track team. My coach actually said, no, you're going to do the 800 and the mile, which no one wants to do. And then we realized I actually was kind of good at that. So running was like the only thing I was good at, but like baseball, football, basketball, hockey, no, horrible. Skateboarding, and I'm not even saying I was the greatest, but when you're growing up, and I was kind of in that in-between place where, I was pretty smart, I was in honors classes and whatnot, but I wasn't athletic. I listened to a different type of music than what everyone else was listening to. I was always into like the more alternative. And then when I got older, turned into the punk rock and hardcore and metal and things like that. So I was kind of like that outsider kid who kind of fit in all these places, but wasn't fully immersed in their circle. Like when the weekend came, they weren't calling me to go hang out or go over there. So I found this other group of skateboarders, and we all just kind of, to me, it wasn't about like the skateboarding. It was about like, I had this family now with these other group of kind of like misfits with size 60-inch jeans back then, because that was what we wore. And we were our crew, and we would go out and we'd hang out in parking lots, and we'd be, now skateboarding is way more acceptable. But back then, like we were getting kicked out by the police everywhere. So it just gave me a place to go. And I've always just kind of stuck with it, even as I got older. I remember, in the summertime, my kids don't skateboard, but they've got the Razor scooters. Like the three of us, me, my son, my daughter, we'll go to the skate park on a Saturday or Sunday morning, and they love just hanging out and being with me. And for me, people have told me, and my staff has told me, one of the guys I'm working with, Education Never Dies, Tony Coppola, he's even said, he wrote a blog about it, where, I didn't bring the skateboard into the school right away. It was a couple years ago when I finally was like, I need to get back to being who I am. And I feel it helps ground me, and it's something I love to do. And it just, people have meditation or yoga. I try to do that stuff. It doesn't really do anything for me. Um, but like just kind of rolling on a skateboard, there's something about it for me that just is like my meditation. It soothes me. So I don't know. I love it. It's funny because last summer we had a new neighbor. She lives by herself, and she was across the street, and I was out in front of our house, just trying to land some tricks. And my kids are out there, and they're like drawing with chalk or throwing a softball. And my neighbor's like, "Are you going through a midlife crisis? Like, are you okay out there? Like, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, it's just me. Like, I just ride my skateboard." So I don't know. I love it. You know, I'm not nearly as good as I used to be at all anymore. And, but just for me too, there's so many, I'm the type of person, like if you've listened to the Punk Rock Classrooms podcast we do, Josh and I draw connections from the punk rock subculture and how it can come into education. I do that with a lot of things. I just wrote a blog a week ago about how my old used up running shorts are equivalent to old, like used up lesson plans. We just got to throw them both away. Skateboarding is the same thing, because kids will ask me all the time, like, "Oh, do you fall a lot?" And I tell them, I fall all the time. Every single time I'm trying to do a trick, I'll fall over and over and over. But that's the thing. I keep getting back up and I keep trying again. I take what didn't work the last time, and I try to tweak that and learn from it and move on. And that's what we want kids to do, right? We want them to learn, hey, you can fail at something, but if you stay down, if you don't learn from that mistake and you don't try to improve and move forward, like then that's a problem. It's okay to fail, but you got to learn from it and keep moving on. So, I use that parallel skateboarding with them.
And I'm glad you went there, because I was actually taking some notes while you were talking, and that's what I was writing down about how it seems like skateboarding is this metaphor for your life. I was going to start off today saying that you must be really, really good at skateboarding. You've been doing it your whole life, but you talk about that you're still trying new tricks. You're still out there trying to do things that you've never done before, which, in our age, just as guys, as professionals, sometimes we do want to just settle into our comfort zone and say, nah, this is just who I am. But you're out there still experimenting. You're still trying to do things to impress yourself, not the neighbors. I mean, you don't care if the neighbors see you doing this stuff. The neighbors are seeing you fall on your face. You're doing it just to tell yourself you can keep doing it and you can keep growing.
Exactly.
In terms of your professional life, can you talk about, use that metaphor a little bit? Talk about your professional trajectory and how it's not necessarily smooth. When you're skateboarding, it's not like the ground is always smooth. There's cracks in the pavement sometimes. There are dips and bumps that you don't necessarily see that can send you flying. Can you talk through that a little? Where has your career gone?
Oh man. So yeah, I've always loved English. And I think that's why I don't think why, that's why I became an English teacher. Because I loved, to me, like math, history, science, not so much, but those were pretty like, 1 + 1 = 2. That's it. But with English, it was very open, and you can take it to so many different places and interpretations. Same with writing, just the ability to express yourself, and maybe you're not saying anything different that hasn't been said before, but the way you put it out there is different. So I've always loved kind of like that freedom of ELA. So when I taught, I was young, 20, how old were you when I started teaching? 24, 25 maybe. Because it actually took me 5.5 years to finish school. Because I didn't want to go to teaching to begin with. I was going to be a lawyer, a doctor. That obviously didn't happen. And it was about a year or two into my college career. I just was taking basic courses, and I was like, all right, I got to figure out what I'm going to do, because I can't just be here forever. And so I was like, well, I'm going to teach, that I always liked my English teachers. And so when I was a teacher, I stayed true. So with the kids, I talked to the kids about music. We shared bands that I was into and they did. I was always very open with them. I was doing, I was creating the flexible seating in my room before there was flexible seating. The projects we did were just kind of like the out of the box projects, just things that would come to me, like when we taught a writing unit, and rather than talk about like the different size we had to pick, I would have the kids, middle school kids, like, we're going to read the Three Little Pigs. Everyone knows that story. I'm like, I'm going to read you the true story of the Three Little Pigs, which is like, the big bad wolf story. And then they come into the classroom, and I had the entire thing set up as a courtroom, and everyone had jobs, so we had a stenographer, we had, a judge, we had a bailiff, the judge, the jury, and my classes would argue the point of, well, was the Three Little Pigs telling the truth, or was the wolf telling the truth? And it was interesting because, every class had a different outcome. Some said the pigs were innocent, some said the wolf was innocent. So I've always just kind of done fun things. And the number one thing I've always done was build relationships with my kids. They pretty much knew everything about me. I was very open with them. We would spend every day, and this is before there were peace circles and Teach Like a Pirate was out and all these things. These were just things I felt I needed to do to get to know my kids. So I did a lot of that. And then when I became an assistant principal, it was a lot of the same thing. I mean, and I tell this to aspiring administrators all the time. The assistant principal position was probably one of the best positions I ever had. I almost sometimes wish I would have done it longer than 2 years, because you have responsibility, but not everything's going to fall on you, which can sometimes be extremely stressful. The sole principal of a school is, and if there's a lot more opportunities to just be with students and staff as an assistant principal. So when I became an assistant principal, that's what I did. I was in classrooms, I was working with teachers, I was giving them, ideas of what I thought, working side by side with the students. And obviously, not many people aspire to be, I'm going to be an assistant principal my whole career. 2 years in, an opportunity opened up at the district I was in, which I'm currently still in. And, I became the principal of where I'm at. And for some reason, when I became the principal, I felt I couldn't be who I was. I felt like, okay, principals are supposed to be in their office, looking at data, answering phones, emails. We go do a lap around the building at 10 o'clock to make sure everyone sees us, and we say hi, and then we go back to our office and we look at more data and numbers and emails. And that's what I had always seen as a student, as a teacher. That's why I saw principals, and I that's what I did. And the first year wasn't so bad because you're learning a lot as your first year as a principal, but years 2, 3, 4, I became miserable. And I've always said, I'm going to school. For the first time in my life, I was saying I have to go to work, which to me was a big eye opener. If I'm looking at it as this is work and not something I want to be at, like school, that's a problem. And I really started to contemplate the end of my 4th year. Is this what I want to keep doing? I'm like, I'm a young guy. Like, I couldn't imagine another 20 years doing this if this is how I felt now. So, I started to actually look, what can I do with my skill set? And a couple summers when I had first gotten married, being a teacher, I had summers off, and I had worked in a trading firm in their education department. I created tests and quizzes for new traders that came in. So I'm like, well, should I try to go back into that trading? That means it's such an unstable field. You got firms closing all the time after a couple of years. And I was like, I could go do that. But then I'm just sitting in a cubicle there too, not really interacting with anybody. So I kind of told myself, like, all right, well, the NASSP conference, it was the summer of 2018, was coming to Chicago. And our district said, well, all of us can go. It's right here. We're not paying for travel. So I'm like, well, I'll go to this conference and I'll see if I can pick anything up. So I went, and the first day was a waste of my time. I picked all these sessions. It was the same stuff you've been hearing over and over. So I went home that night and I was like, all right, let me look at this schedule. Let me look at, I spent an hour or so like looking at each presenter, and I had a Twitter account because I had to make it for a workshop a couple years ago. So I never touched it after the workshop. So I'm like, all right, well, everyone keeps talking about Twitter. Let me look up some of these people. And, I Hamish Brewer was speaking, and I was like, this tattoo skateboarding principle. Like, what is that? That sounds like something I would totally be into. So then I kind of researched him. And then, Twitter, you kind of see people and you see who they're retweeting. So I just kind of started looking at all of these groups. I started finding all of these principles from around the country. I'm like looking at their Twitter feeds. I'm like, these guys are doing things. This is what I want to do. Why am I not in pictures with my students? We're having fun. Why am I not wearing costumes, in school? Why am I not just holding impromptu dance parties? Like, this is what I need to do. So I kind of started to get immersed in that. And I actually read that summer Run Like a Pirate by Adam Welcome. I had done something about dads with principles, and he retweeted, he's like, oh, you want a copy of my book? So he sends me that book, and I spent, I think a day and a half, I read the whole thing. And if you've never read Run Like a Pirate, Adam says it's about running, but it's not about running. As I read the book, the way my mind works, I'm drawing all of these connections he's saying with running to leadership. And I kind of told myself, like, I'm not being true to who I am. And that's why I'm not happy. That's why the staff morale has been low. That's why the culture and the climate has been negative in our building. Not horrible negative. People weren't leaving, but I knew it could be a million times better. So I went in last year with this whole new outlook, like, I'm just going to be me. And it was amazing just how the culture shifted within the past year and a half of where we're at. I mean, we are truly, our staff is all in for kids, and it's a whole collaborative approach we've done. And I've modeled to them time and time again about me getting out of my comfort zone. I started blogging last year and sharing that with the world. And I used to never share my writing with anybody. Started the podcast, started just being me again. And I said, I'm going to do everything I can to not be in my front office. So I got the mobile office and just in classrooms in the hallways. And I love what I do now. Like, I really can't picture not being a principal. Like, it's funny. I was talking to one of my teachers yesterday, and she's like, yeah, I know, I heard you got this book agreement. She's like, you're going to get all famous and leave us. And then she texts me back. She goes, I know you would never leave the school because you love these kids too much. And it's true. Like, I've talked to my superintendent, like, I don't have a desire to move, at least right now, to move into a district office position. I feel this is where I need to be. And I'm just so glad I never left and kind of gave another shot.
That's an awesome story. And I'm sitting here again, taking so many notes, and I'm going to pull something out that I think is kind of humorous. So yesterday I was at work, because I do have one of those central office jobs, and we'll talk about that maybe at another time. But I was talking to somebody at work and telling them that I was going to be talking to you this morning. And they said, oh, it sounds like a cool story. Tell me a little bit more about him. And the way that I described you, I'm just going to say it. I said, if Adam Welcome and Hamish Brewer had a baby, it would be you. And I know that's a crazy thing to even talk about, but and it's so cool that you talk about both of those guys and the influence that they've had on you, their words, their books, their presentations. I think nowadays, it seems like so many people are out there writing books, and so many people are out there trying to get quote unquote famous. And right. I think there's a place for that. But I think what we need to recognize is that so many of these people, they're not out there trying to be innovative. They're not out there trying to destroy everything about education. Sometimes they're just out there trying to empower us to be who we are. And I
Right.
feel like that's what happened with you, is that you heard these voices saying, Mike, it's okay, man. Just be you. Bring you.
Right.
That's what the world of education needs right now. Don't go out there always trying to disrupt everything and break the system all the time. Just be true to you. And I mean, sometimes who you are will rub against the system a little bit.
Right.
And I know it does. Because I know a lot of the things that I say do rub against the system, but it's not with the intent to try to break the system. It's just, this is who I am. These are the
Right.
thoughts that I have. Take them, leave them, question them. That's cool. Let's have the conversation and let's keep going. And I love that right now,
Right.
where I think you are in your trajectory is you're truly trying to identify your voice. And you've got so many different platforms, whether it's writing or speaking or the podcast, where you're using different forms and different mediums of your voice to find that center place for you, where you're trying to figure out, what should I say? What shouldn't I say? When should I rock the boat? When should I not rock the boat? Because that is a difficult place to be. I know, for example, in the past year, one of the things that I've been super impressed with about your journey is how you have really, really articulated the fact that you serve those below you. And I hate to use the term below you, but in the hierarchy.
Right.
You are there for the people that work with you on a day in and day out basis. And I know sometimes when you start to climb that career ladder, we fall victim to, I know I fell victim to this, working for the people above us. We start to look at the people that could offer us the raise, offer us the incentives, offer us the promotions, the people that evaluate us, and we do all that we can to please them at the expense of those that we are there to support. And you're in this place now where I feel like it's all about the people you work with and you rub shoulders with on a day in and day out basis. And man, it's an absolutely amazing place to be. And I'm seeing like the satisfaction from you right now, just because of that. It's impressive.
No, I appreciate that, but it's true, and I've had comments made from those above me. They've stopped in the school, and they're calling me. The secretaries are calling me on the radio, but it's the lunch hour. I'm in the cafeteria, like I'm sitting down with kids, eating with them, talking with them, and they'll get a hold of me, and I'll come up to see what they wanted, and they're like, "Oh, I stuck my head in the lunchroom." My school knows, hey, if it's between 11:30 and 1, we're going to go to the cafeteria. That's probably where he's going to be. Now, of course, we know there's things that come up. I can't be in there every day, but I try to be there most of the days. But, the district office, they're like, "Oh, were you in the lunchroom? I didn't even see you." I'm like, well, yeah, I was sitting at a table with kids. Like, I'm not just standing there supervising. Like, I'm sitting down talking to these kids, because that's where I learned so much about them in that informal kind of setting. And the same thing, I think it's important. There's plenty of times where a spill will happen. I'll grab the mop and the towels, and my custodian's like, "Oh, we got that, mystery." I'm like, "No, I got it. Like, you're gonna be, you'll be cleaning up when everyone leaves out of here. Like, I can get this right now. Like, I don't need to get you because that's your title and I'm here." Because I've seen, when I taught things like that, those administrators who felt, well, because I'm here, that's jobs below me, and there's no job that's below me. I have no problem doing anything, and I love when I'm around, just popping into classrooms into my school. If I see a teacher who's having a bad day, or I could tell they're stressed, like that's when I would be like, "Hey, do you mind if I read a book to your kids for 20 minutes?" And just to give them that mental break, and you can stay and listen, you can leave. But I mean, that's what a leader is supposed to do. You got to watch out for who's below you. You got to make sure that they're doing well, because they're the ones who are moving the school forward. It's not me. They're the ones in that classroom with those kids, giving them that instruction. Like, I'm just here to help support and help guide where we're going. So that's how I kind of look at it.
No, and I'll argue that you practice what you preach in your personal life and your professional life. For those that don't know, our podcast today got delayed a little bit. Why? Because you had some stuff going on at home that you had to take care of. Your
Right.
kids, your family come first, and this thing came to a pause, and that's the way it should be. You know, you talk about in your school. So I've got that central office position. And as a result, I get to supervise leaders and teachers a little bit. And I know that there are some people that when I send out an email, they think that their responsibility is to reply back within 30 seconds just to prove that they're on top of their game.
Right.
To be honest, the way I look at it, I'm like, man, are you just sitting in your office waiting for my emails? If that's the case, boo. I would much rather that email not get returned until 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, because that means you're in the trenches with kids all day long. I had one of my former bosses gave me some great advice, and it's powerful, and I put it into practice. What he did was he had some business cards made, and he left them with his secretary. And anytime a parent or somebody with the fancy suit came to the office looking for him, the secretary just passed out the business card. And on the business card, it said, "Sorry, I can't meet with you right now. I'm meeting with kids impacting the next generation." And it left his contact information. And it was sent the message that I'm out doing the stuff that matters.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't playing. I was watching something.
It sent the message that they're out doing the stuff that matters, and that it mattered. They're going to get back in touch with those people, but it's not that they're out just blowing off the time. And so I started doing that, and it was so powerful. And you end up getting those messages then that have a much different voice, a much different flavor. They're not, the messages aren't, "Hey, I couldn't find you and I needed to tell you something right away." It was, "Wow, you're out there doing the real work. Hey, give me a call when you can." Or the parents, you've now deflected the parents that came in all hot and bothered, ready to chew you out because of something. Now they realize you're in the trenches making the difference. And it's so ironic that the timing for those people that are listening or watching, it was just a little gap in this because we had to pause it because one of your kids came in, and we paused it. I mean, that's
my
what
son
happened.
Walked in.
The priorities. The timing was impeccable for this. It's just, that's the way things work. And in life,
how the universe works.
That's right. It's not about finding balance. It's identifying those priorities and staying true to what you identify as important.
You know, one thing, like you were saying, I love that business card idea. And now my district, you know, before, like last year, when I really started to just say, I'm not going to be in my front office, I would come back at the end of the day and there would be numerous voicemails from my other principals in the district, you know, parents. Now when I come back to my office, because they've all realized, okay, this wasn't just something he was doing for a couple, like he's not in his office. Like, I'm literally in the morning, I'm there, we do the announcements from there, and then I check on my secretaries, and then I'm off. I've actually thought about turning my front office into like another conference room or something for them to use when there's IEP meetings and whatnot going on, because I feel like I really don't need it. But so anyway, now there's no voicemails because they know if they need to get a hold, pick up a phone in any classroom that's available. 2, send me a Voxer message, text me, call my cell phone. Like, if you need to get a hold of me right then and there, they know how to. And I've also noticed, this is a funny story. Our specials teachers, you know, music, art, PE, our elementary buildings don't have like set ones. They travel between the 3 elementary buildings. We hired a new art teacher last year, and she's in my building 1.5 days a week. And she comes up to me maybe a month or 2 into the school year, and she's there on Thursdays and Fridays. And she goes, you know, "Hey, Mike, I don't think I'm getting the school emails." Like, "Well, what are you talking about?" She goes, "Well, I mean, I get some of them, but I don't think I'm getting them all. Like, the last email I got from you was on Monday." I go, "Yeah, it was the last time I sent an all school email was Monday." She goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "It's Thursday." I go, "Right." She's like, "Oh, like, because sometimes I just keep getting emails all throughout the day." I'm like, "No." I'm like, if I need it, like, and the all school email was like the newsletter for the week, you know, like the teacher newsletter. I'm like, if I need something, I'm just going to come talk to you on your plan or your break. Or if a teacher needs something or a staff member, they just come up to me in the hallway and be like, we'll just hash out there. At first it was kind of awkward because, like, last year when the mobile desk first came into play, I'll never forget, I was sitting there at a crossroads of the hall, and one of my 5th grade teachers came up, and I was talking to some kids, and then they went off, And then this teacher kind of looked at me, and she's like, are you in your office right now? I'm like, well, yeah, the whole school is my office. Like, I'm like, do we need to go in private? She goes, no. And then she stepped in, and then we had the conversation as if I was, but we're right there in the school. And I mean, now that's just common practice. Everyone knows. And so the amount of emails teachers send me is almost non-existent, because they know, just come find me in the hallway. You don't need to email me, and then I'm going to deal with it after school. Then we're going to take care of it tomorrow. I mean, how much time does that waste? You got an issue, like, let's just do it right now. So, I don't know. Served me well.
That's good, man. It is. It's all about, we're in the people business. So meet people. We're not we're not in the computer business. Computer's the tool, but we're in it for people. So any way you can meet with the people, meet with the people. And again, I mean, you're meeting with the people in multiple facets. On your day-to-day job, you got the mobile office, you're talking to them face to face, but you also have the blog in which some people are meeting with you. You're utilizing Twitter and Voxer to meet with the people, your podcasts, all of your projects. And now you've got a book coming out too, man. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Man, it's crazy. So I've always been a writer, but like I said, I always kept everything to myself. The only time I shared my writing was when I had to take a creative writing course in college, because we had to share it, and even then I kind of held back in my writing, because to me, it was always personal. So last year I started blogging, and I didn't know if anyone would even care what I had to say. I've read a lot of educational blogs, and I don't, not to offend anybody, some of them are just kind of sometimes bland and just the same things kind of rehashed. And I'm not like a huge like data person. I mean, I am, but like, that's not a passion of mine. So I like to read things that just, are just enjoyable. With my background, I've always kind of wanted to write like a story. So I just started blogging, and just like a blog, anything that kind of came to my head, I would draw I got blogs about, education, blogs about running. I mean, my blogs are kind of all over the place. There's not like a common theme to them. And, so after I started blogging for a while and sharing it out there, I was like, I want to write a book. And I've had some people tell me, like Adam Welcome, Ryan Shee, like, but don't like put that as your goal. Like, I need to write a book, because you're going to stress yourself out trying to make that. Like, it'll happen. Like, just keep blogging. So I kind of kept blogging. Well, not kind of, I kind of, still do. And I kind of realized, like, my stuff's all over the place. There's no common theme. So one day, I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I was writing a blog, which is actually going to turn into one of the chapters. It's probably the only piece from the book that's actually out there right now. It's called Struggle Island, and it was about this activity I did with my staff at a staff meeting. Basically, they all submitted a problem they're facing in education in their classroom. They submitted earlier in the week. We went outside on our back playground. They got in a circle. I pulled the card out. I read it aloud. If you're facing that same struggle, you step back. That shows you're in the waters off the island, struggling, drowning. We're on the island. Let's give you support of how we can fix it. And, as I was writing that, my daughter comes up to me and she goes, "Oh, are you writing a book?" I'm like, well, I don't know. Hopefully I'm writing a book. I'd like to. And then I started thinking, every time I've gone and spoken at a conference, or I posted things on Twitter in a Twitter chat, the most feedback or questions I get from people are, I want to know more about this activity you did, because our staff meetings too, we even touch on that. Like, I've gone away from just sitting there listening to me do PowerPoints. We're up, we're moving, we're playing games, we're laughing. The staff has told me, we look forward to the faculty meetings you have, which is unheard of. Have you ever heard a teacher say, I can't wait to go to this 2-hour meeting after school today? So we're doing things because what the staff means when I lead them, I want them to take the activity we done, find a way to bring that to their kids. So my daughter says that, I'm writing, I'm like thinking about my speaking. I'm like, oh, I should make this whole thing about kind of things that I've done in practice. And then about a half hour after that, my son, who loves cooking, we were baking some chocolate chip cookies, and he loves, following the recipe. I actually, if I never went into education, I would have went to culinary school. I cooked in a kitchen for 15 years. I worked my way up from a dishwasher all the way to the head cook, line cook at this bar and grill. And then I was like, I need to make a cookbook. And I started kind of telling some people, and they're like, that's a pretty cool idea. So yeah, basically, I just kind of started writing, not thinking it was going to go anywhere. And then I talked to a few people through Voxer, Jeff Kubiak being one of them. I kind of told him my idea, the premise of it. And he's like, I don't know if you know Jeff, because he was on the podcast. He's like, bro, that is a sick idea. Typical Ooh, Jeff. And I'm like, yeah. And so then also, I was talking to Kristen Nan, who I met at Teach Better Conference 2019. And she's like, oh my God, Mike, that is so awesome. And next thing I know, she's got me in a Voxer chat with Sarah from EduMatch. So Sarah and I were going back and forth, and she's like, well, yeah, submit what you have. So I, submitted it. And about a month ago, we did the Google Hangout, Sarah and I kind of talked to her about my idea. And next thing you know, next day, got a agreement in my email from EduMatch, and that was that. So, it's early in the stages. Don't have release timeline yet. I'm hoping by the end of 2020, maybe early 2021. But it's I don't want to give too much away because I want to build some anticipation. But I'm really excited about it. I just finished a chapter the other day. It's called Popsicles for Breakfast. Because I told Sarah I like to have fun. When I write, I want it. You're going to take what the book's going to have. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher in the classroom, a paraprofessional, an administrator. You're going to be able to take away things that are going to help change the culture and climate of, if you're a teacher in your classroom, if you're an administrator in your school, things you can do to help change your culture and literally put them into practice the next day. Like, you're not going to have to wait and research and plan it all out. Like, I'm going to give you everything you need, but obviously you can do your own tweaks to it. There's not one way to do it. And the way I'm writing, I'm just telling my story, man. It's going to read like you're reading a novel, I hope, and a good piece of writing, and just get engaged with it, and then be able to take these things and put them into place. So
that's awesome. And I feel it from right now too. It's reinvigorating your passion. It's helping you realize all the good things that are out there. So it's not a book that you're writing to make millions of dollars. I mean, I hope you do, but nobody in this educational space makes millions of dollars off anything they write. But if nothing else, it fuels your soul. Just sitting down. It's almost like journaling. You're remembering all the good things about your day and your career and the difference you're making. And hopefully it'll make a difference with others as well. So good for you.
That's the goal. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you got all kinds of things in the fire right now: podcast, writing, leading, parenting, you name it, man. And we talked about balance and priorities. We talk about bringing fun and passion back to work. You talked about what leadership really is. I mean, you brought a lot to this conversation today. I'm going to ask you right now to try to synthesize it all down and boil it to one point. We call this the mic drop moment. If you had the opportunity right now to say, man, this is the thing I want everybody to hold on to, it's going to be the last thing they hear from you. What is that thing? What is the thing that will resonate with the 7 billion people that are listening to this? Oh, no pressure, man. No pressure whatsoever.
I kind of end. Yeah, right. No, I tell this to people all the time. I mean, just you need to be true to yourself. You know, if you know it's going to benefit others, whether that's students, staff, you know, parents, if it's going to benefit others, and I'm assuming since we're all educators, it's going to benefit yourself. You know, don't not do something because your neighboring teacher's not doing it or your neighboring school's not doing it. I mean, if you know it's good, do it and just get out of your comfort zone. You know, my wife tells me all the time, Mike, nothing changes if nothing changes. You know, whether it's my running training program, you know, diet, anything, like nothing changes if nothing changes. So just get out of your comfort zone. Bring your passions and fun in there. Just be yourself. Don't hide who you are because you're afraid like that's not what you're supposed to do in this field. That's it. Just be yourself.
And oftentimes it's that authenticity that brings people to you. I mean, I guarantee your neighbors aren't out there with skateboards in their hands, but they know that you do it. And that's
Right.
who you are. There's not a whole lot of educators out there listening to punk rock music
No.
and bringing that into their repertoire, but that's who you are. And it's that uniqueness that makes the difference. So
Right.
bring who you are each and every day, own it, celebrate it, grow it, improve it, and just keep experimenting, man. That's good wisdom.
Yeah, definitely.
Good wisdom.
Thank you.
So how can people connect with you if they're like, man, this guy's got some truth I want to continue to track?
Probably the best way to be on Twitter. It's at Earnshaw158. So that's MEARNSHAW 158. That's the best way. Once you go there, there's a link to my blog. The blog address is pretty long. So go to my Twitter page. It's in my profile. I'm on Voxer. So DM me if you're on Voxer. I love Voxer. Because on Twitter, you know, Twitter's great, but Voxer, you could really get to some of those just deep conversations, you know, more personal with people on there. So, yeah, that's it. I mean,
Great.
Find me on Twitter, then we'll connect on all the other platforms through there.
That's awesome. And
then check out Punk Rock Classroom's podcast. You got to check out the podcast.
Absolutely, man. And I'm going to have, there are links to all those things in the show notes. So if you're checking us out on YouTube, just read the notes. If you're listening to the pod, check out the notes, click on the links, follow this man, follow his journey. 2020 is just set up to be a killer year for him. So track along with him, man. Follow the journey. It will inspire you. It will fill you up, and it's going to push you to go out there and try some new things, man. So keep doing what you do. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you as a person, as a professional, and I just appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you, Dave. I was glad to be here.